Economic turmoil and financial instability are dominating today's headlines, but can we use lessons from the past to get us through today? Well, our next guest thinks so, and he's written all about it in his new book, Lords of Finance, The Bankers Who Broke the World. We're pleased to be joined by Liaquat Ahmed. He's the author of the book. Hi, Liaquat. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Jackie.
So when you researched the history of global finance, this was years ago, did you realize how relevant it would become today?
No, I can't claim that sort of prescience.
So you're pretty surprised then that this is all...
Well, I thought we'd have a crisis. I just didn't realize that the financial system would be like a house of cards.
Right. Did you think it would be this significant?
No, I didn't. I have to say that.
So do you think then we may be headed into another depression?
No. And the reason is we have the example of the last one to tell us what not to do.
So what can you learn from the last one that you're seeing that it's not going to happen this time around?
Well, what made the Great Depression great was three things. The first was that they allowed the banking system to collapse. And we haven't done that this time. We've, with one mistake, and that was the case of Lehman Brothers, we have done everything we can to bail out the banking system. The second mistake they did was raise taxes and raise interest rates in the middle of the Great Depression. They raised taxes because they believed that we should never go into deficit finance, and they raised interest rates because the gold standard, any country losing gold, was required to raise interest rates. We have none of that. We've cut interest rates to zero, and we've got a massive stimulus package.
What do you think of the stimulus package the way it stands right now?
I think the crucial thing was the size. I mean, until recently we were talking about a few $100 billion. Now we're talking about 800, 900 billion. And I attribute that to the influence of people like Larry Summers.
It has grown to 920 billion, I believe.
Exactly. And that's the right thing to do.
So you believe that this is what we need right now at this time?
Very much so. The economy is like a car that's been driven into a ditch. We can't get out of it by cutting interest rates anymore, so we need the government to act as a sort of tow truck to pull us out.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that have happened over the last few months. We've seen the auto industry basically crack. What sector do you think may crack again?
I'm not sure I can predict which sectors are going to crack. I mean, there are all sorts of sectors that grew too large. The financial industry is way too large. Real estate got too large, and those have already cracked. I think we're beginning to see, we will see a recovery, I think, towards the end of the year. Towards the end of the year.
I mean, some people are saying that it could be even longer than that.
Yeah, and I personally believe that the stimulus package will work, and that it will inject money into the economy, and that we've now stabilized the banking system with this new injection of capital, possibly with the government taking over a couple of the very large banks. We've stabilized the financial system. So I think we have all the elements in place. The one risk, and this is the one lesson from the Great Depression where the jury is out, is if we enter into a sort of a fist fight with some of our trading partners.
Right. Also, don't you think you have to get people spending again? Right now people are saving. They're afraid to spend, basically, so you have to get them to start spending again to stimulate the economy, basically.
Yeah. And that will occur if the stimulus package works. I think we'll get confidence returning. The astounding thing in the Great Depression was that Roosevelt, the economy turned around in March 1933, which was the month that Roosevelt took office. And he did it by telling the American people the truth, told them how bad the economy was, and then stepped in to fix the banks, and stepped in with a massive series, or a large series of measures, some of which were, didn't do anything, but he was willing to try everything to get the economy out of its hole.
Now, your book also looks at the mistakes that central bankers made during the Depression with today's crisis. Were some of the same mistakes made, or are these entirely new problems that we're looking at?
No, we made the same mistakes going in. We allowed a bubble to develop. Then it was in the stock market. This time it was in real estate. And when the bubble burst, it had a terrible effect. I think what we're seeing now is that we're not repeating the mistakes that they made after the bubble burst, which was then they allowed the banking system to collapse. I mean, the Great Depression did not start in October 1929. The Great Depression started in December 1930 when they allowed a bank called the Bank of United States in New York to go under.
So then we have learned some lessons from the Great Depression that we are applying to today's crisis. It's safe to say that then?
Very much so.
And what else do we need to do now going forward, apart from the economic stimulus package?
We will see in the next couple of weeks a further sort of equivalent of the TARP program, an injection of capital and funds into the banking system, because we cannot get a recovery unless the financial system stabilizes and has some extra capital to work with. The second thing is that we have to be careful that we don't adopt measures that, in effect, export our problems to other countries. One of the common views is that the Great Depression became great because of protectionism. And protectionism didn't cause the Great Depression, but what it did do was it was a way of, if you like, exporting our unemployment abroad. And what then happened is foreign countries then tried to pass the parcel along by raising tariffs themselves. And if we go to that sort of strategy, we'll have a sort of cascade of protectionism and a cascade downwards in international trade.
All right, Liaquat, there's a lot more to talk about this, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And the book is called Lords of Finance, and it's available right now online and at bookstores everywhere.